Well, a RISE analyst, Dr. Amadi, joins us now. He's a former chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. Thank you so much, Dr. Amadi. Good to see you. Well, I mean, for the upteenth time, the grid collapse has happened again. In fact, we've lost count. But in terms of why this incessant grid collapse, we hear from the from the federal government that, look, it's the DISCO's inability to take the load, from the TCN. That's the problem. So apparently the FG seems to be saying the DISCO is actually the weakest link here. And then we hear from the TCN that is because of ongoing repair work that, we're having this grid collapse.
Well, I think the key thing is that we have grid collapse, and
that's the point.
That's the point, and the government has responsibility to ensure that all the value chains and the operators are doing their best. Our grid is not reliable, clearly, because of several problems of capacity. First generation capacity vis-a-vis distribution uptake. So if there's imbalance, by the way, the direct cause of this from TCN is frequency variation, which means it occurs when it's like equilibrium. If you're going to ask for 50 megawatts, you have to receive 50 megawatts. So that balances. So energy has a frequency in which it must operate. Once there's that imbalance arising from higher demand and low supply, there will be a system collapse. That frequency is a problem. But then, if your system is not robust, it maybe cannot withstand. That's number one. Number two, if you repair, pick up. When the system is down, you can pick up faster, depending on the both the managerial and technical capability of the grid. So the first takeaway is that it's like man against man against food. That we're going to always fight against this grid. The second issue to bear in mind is like the communities work. We've had a problem in the past when I was there, and we had set up a structure and we minimized it. And since last year, there has been increased frequency of grid collapse. And so it speaks to specific weakness of grid management, whether in terms of TCN or the DISCOs dropping load regularly because they don't have the capacity to take them, and TCN probably doesn't have the capacity to drop the load at the exact point the DISCOs have facility to pick it up. Or there is no proactive management of the grid. So not just about the frequency problem, there's also arising from the other time was fire. They said there was a fire at some of the exchange, the one Shiroro. There are different frailties. So for me, I think that if I'm looking at the grid now, I don't think that too many collapses suggest lacks weak management. That's clear. At the level of the ministry.
But it lacks strong management.
Lacks and weak. That means
lacks
lacks.
All right.
And weak management.
Yeah, lacks as in LAX.
Exactly. At the policy level of the ministry and at the regulatory level. So there need to be increase in the level of proactive management of the grid, because look, yes, there could be seasonal impact, but at this point the rate of collapse suggests that we're weaker than we used to be in terms of running this grid. We're weaker either in terms of the capacity we are producing selling to the grid vis-a-vis the capacity the DISCOs have to receive it. We've increased tariffs to a point that some people would argue that maybe the tariff itself is now too much for the quality of service being provided. So really, I think there should be more look now at the level of quick, proactive management. And a task force, really, this is a study group that worked now, that's to say, investigate, report. But I think that I've argued that we need to have a task force in the version in which Patton and former President Jonathan had, a task force made of real technical persons, people of ability, whose job is scanning periodically at the network, whether at the DISCO, the distribution end, ensuring that avoidable slippages are taken care of. So you have a short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Short-term is you can optimize what we have now without additional investment. So if you're doing average of 6 hours, average across board, not just band A, if you optimize better management, more proactive management, stronger focus management, you can increase up to 6 more hours, okay? If you have average of 3, collapses in a year, without more investment, but with greater managerial technical capability and supervision, you can reduce to 1. So there are 2 aspects. One is the long-term investment that's going to give you medium to long-term improvement that requires redesigning this grid, reconceiving the regulatory framework. But the short term is that you have to increase leadership, management, technical supervision, and that's what the real task force can do. Yeah. It can buy you quicker. In fact, in economics development, we talk about, equilibrium and frontier of productivity. So it can, within the same frontier, it can improve. If not, your capacity is 100, you're doing 60. So you have 40.
Let me comment here, yeah. Dr. Amadi. It's a good thing that you're back here wearing that cap of the electricity industry. But it is sad. And it is sad because now, in one breath, that we seem to be having a double-speaking TCN. You're saying the DISCOs rejecting the load, is one of the sole reasons you have in this collapse. On the other hand, you're just also telling us that we should expect more because you are fixing, you are upgrading. So isn't this indicative of what we've always spoken about, that the kind of investment we've seen in some of the DISCOs have not actually reflected within the government's own arm of it, which is the TCN? Well,
true. 2 things happening here at the same time. One is that the DISCOs are unreliable because they don't have the level of investment they need to have. Probably they're not making it, and they tell you tariff and tariff. So let's not go there. But also the TCN itself is not also optimizing its own technical capability. So, for example, if they say they are doing repairs, of course, it's not just frequency variation that leads to collapse. Yeah. Frequency variation can be arrested, can be managed. Yeah. So the collapse also because of the unreliability, the frailty of their own network. And so the truth is that they are doing repairs. The question is, could these repairs have been phased in a way that it will not lead to what we're experiencing today? Yeah. So if you have, the managerial efficiency is very poor in the sector. That's the point I'm trying to make. So there is a case for investment, a case for we need more assets, we need to upgrade, remove the bad network, but also a case for increase in technical, supervision, which is the reason why you plan the network. You preempt these frailties, you avoid them, you overcome them, and you have minimal downtime because you are managing better. And so if people talk about, investment, we need 100 billion, a year. Okay, that's good. But also you need upgrading human capability. You need better leadership of the sector. Because if you scan 10 years of this privatization, there are periods of less unreliability, more reliability, more availability. And if you map it, it correlates with a period of better leadership of the sector. Absolutely. It doesn't give everything. But so it's not just about financing. It's also about, are we really managing this sector in the way we should? Are we really giving the DISCOs the level of knowledge they need? Is that somebody...
But Amadi, we're not lacking finance here, because after security, talking about defense, it looks like the next big thing is within the power sector.
Yeah, but I don't agree that you need more. I'm just saying, let's for now, we don't have comfort zone for financing. The government is almost, quote unquote, somewhat broke in a soft sense. So I'm not expecting government to put in triple billion.
So in other words, what you're saying is, look, it's not a lack of funds that's the issue. It's
for the
lack of
at this level,
know-how.
That you can use the same investment and get more outcome.
The right people to run Nigeria's power sector, they're just not there yet.
I'm saying, exactly, you can put it this way, I'm saying that there's a continuous degradation, in my view, over time of the capability at all the sectors.
Now that you have this investigative panel report that's been submitted to the power minister, and he's saying, look, with immediate effect, begin to implement some of the recommendations. And I wonder why people like you are not actually on that committee. But if you were, what would be the 3 key points that you would recommend for government?
Okay, so it depends on what the committee recommends to them. But again, I think the committee is going to talk about...
To solve the grid collapse problem.
Well, it depends on what they saw. It's diagnostics. So some of them will be technical. We need to improve provision of spare parts to deal with all this. Some of them might be... The handshake between DISCO and GENCO is still weak. So maybe I would need to ask the DISCOs to improve so they have the capacity to receive load. But whatever it is, this is what I think we should do.
Yeah.
First, I think that whenever you privatize or what you call deregulate, sorry, whenever you liberalize and unbundle, you create a coordination problem because you have three instead of one entity, which is the advantage you have with monopoly, that everybody's on the same page. You have three different sectors, okay? You need to have efficient coordination between the three places, otherwise you have a disarray. So they need to have, to say it again, the task force, whose job is not just to be in office, but to have a diagnostic all the time, watching who is not optimizing their play. So sometimes maybe the discos are not getting their men to run the lines properly, clear the faults that drag down, the sector, or the TCN is not, professional, efficient. Those small slippages, that's my view, amount to much. So at this time now, short term is to optimize investment and what's available. And to optimize, you need a high level of technical ability. So if I was a minister, I would be profiling the people who are running various sectors and asking myself, are they both professionally and in a moral sense, alert to their job? The human element is critical in the short term to optimize. So I would say, why we look for money, sector from external, from IDAs, from government we need funding, okay? Smart money to use smartly. But at the short term, we need to go back and say, map out the inefficiency sectors. What can we do now in terms of managerial input to make it work?
I don't know if we can have a yes or no here. Do you think that some of the discos should be penalized for this imbalanced supply and demand?
I think you need effective regulation by saying, set for them a real benchmark. And if they fail industry design benchmark, find a way to institutionally take over them, institutional investors to come in and dilute ownership and improve technical and financial.
Dr. Sam Amadi, always a delight speaking with you. And as Ngozi said, perhaps your insights will be very much welcome to solving this in Nigeria, as many as we have in the country, not just Dr. Amadi.